my fellow readers, is I, Dark Symphony 777, with another fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notification, and leave a comment. Leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story. And finally, this is my opinion. This is my opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. I'm enjoying some Mountain Dew. No, this is not an advertisement. I just really love Mountain Dew. But anyway, the story I'm reviewing is More Than You Can Chew by Narcopter. It's a RWBY fanfiction, and I actually wanted to read this story for a while because when I did the review on Professor Arc, I got curious and just looked up some random fanfictions in the RWBY section, and I came across this, and it's like, hey, this sounds pretty interesting. And it started interesting, and then it took a nosedive off the cliff. Yeah, so this story is kind of divided into two halves because the quality of the story is just split down the middle. In the first half, you have seasons 1, 2, and 3, the whole thing with Beacon, and then everything after that is just, I mean, honestly, it's a humor crime story. So I was kind of expecting, to not really be heavy on character development and stuff like that, because a lot of comedy stories tend to do that. But this is a 250,000 word comedy story. Yeah, just relying on comedy exclusively, don't do it. So, what's the fan fiction about? So, what's the plot? So, the plot actually starts, it doesn't even start at season 1. It actually starts, I believe, in the yellow trailer, actually. Like, the whole trailer where Yang is in the bar, and she beats up the two girls, and she beats up a bunch of guys. I think that's where this story starts officially. So, the story goes that Roman and Neo, yes, Neo's introduced way earlier than we're expected, into the bar to get some of the troops from the bar guy named Junior to do the crime that he plans on doing at the very beginning of season 1. And it's like, okay, that's fine. They get them in. They get the information. They leave, and then they drop their scroll. I think that's what they call their phones in the show. And who could run? They run into looking for it. Then RWBY. Wow, it's they run into RWBY before the show actually starts. RWBY asked him and said, like, you dropped this, I wanted to give it to you. It's like, okay. And then, of course, RWBY goes all fangirl and says, are you Huntsman? Neo's actually trying to hold back a laughter, while Roman's like, yeah, we are. Yeah. Roman Torchwick and Neapolitan at your service. We're Huntsman Exterminator. And of course, that actually catches up to them immediately. It's like, well, Neo, everyone knows line is plans A through E, and then have it as a backup as plan J in case everything else, in case you're still able to lie your way out of it. Sort of wink and nudge it. So happens is season 1 happens. The whole episode 1 kind of starts out the same way with Roman and Neo. Well, Roman and Neo, it's like an added addition. They do the whole dust store robbery. He has gunpoint at people when they're stealing dust. Junior's Roman's henchman gets flying out because of RWBY. RWBY actually notices Roman and go, "Hi, Roman! You're gonna help us? Are you gonna help me beat these guys up?" And the men are like, "What? What? And Roman's like, I can salvage this. And then someone insults him and is like, "Neo, make it hurt." And of course, Roman, Neo, and RWBY beat up the henchmen. Kalinda shows up So, like, yeah, these two are criminals, so we're gonna arrest you. And meanwhile, Neo's like, with the smug face on her mute face, just glaring at Roman, said, "You did this. You did this." And Roman's thinking, I can still salvage this. I can do this. I can salvage. Of course, nothing goes right with the whole situation where, Roman does like the biggest life when I was at Vaco. I had my ID, and it's like a very, very shoddily made fake ID. And Glinda buys it. It's revealed later in the story that she didn't buy it, but she's like, with what you caring about Neo, I'm willing to give you benefit of the doubt, sort of thing. And so Osmond gives him a deal. They work at Beacon. Well, Roman works at Beacon. Neo becomes a student. And Neo's not for this until Ruby mentions, it's like, we can have sleepovers and have cookies and ice cream. And she's like, ice cream. Ice cream. And so they go, so basically the whole events of season 1, 2, and 3 more or less kind of happen. It's just Roman and Neo are on the good guys, so certain things kind of play out differently. And for the most part, it stays relatively the same across the first 3 seasons. Like, season 4 and beyond, that's when it gets, like, completely derailed because, Roman dies in season 3, eaten by a griffin. Even the story kind of highlights it. It's like, damn it, I don't want to be eaten by a griffin. And even foreshadows when, like, in the story season 3, they crash onto Professor Ironside's ship, and Roman, like, pops his head out, and the griffin nearly eats him. He's like, damn it! No, I really don't want to be eaten by a griffin. And, of course, lots of other shenanigans happen. And, like I said, for seasons 1, 2, and 3, it more or less stays the same. It's just Roman and Neo are, good guys. Season 4 and to season 7, that's when it gets very weird. Like, it doesn't even get bad. It gets... Okay, it kind of gets bad. But it mostly just gets very weird. Okay. I don't know how to actually describe this without embarrassing the hell out of myself, so I'm just going to say it. Salem, the main antagonist of RWBY, if you don't know anything about RWBY, is this immortal witch person. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know much about RWBY, so bear with me if I get details wrong. I'm more likely going to get details wrong. Salem takes a look, wants to see who the people who stopped the whole thing with the assault on Beacon and all the Grimm and stuff like that. She takes one look at Roman, and then she becomes thirsty. She becomes super horny. She becomes so horny. She becomes very horny for Roman that she actually becomes a good guy right then and there. Oh, because she wants Roman. She wants Roman in bed. I don't know how to actually describe. I'm trying to actually word the events out carefully, because most of the next bunch of the chapters can just be summed up in Salem is just very horny for Roman, and her subordinates are basically want to just get her to become evil and said, "You're evil. Why are you horny? Quick, Emerald, yes, Cinder. You know what a sex toy is, right?" "Yes. Why?" How many are we gonna buy for her?" "As many as it takes to get her to become evil again." they're going through, I think, Mistral. And, season 4 or 5 is completely different because not only is Roman and Neo basically joining them, but also Glinda. So Glinda is actually joining the crew. Well, she doesn't stay behind with Beacon to help in the reconstruction because guess what? Glinda falls for Roman! And also Neo and RWBY kind of become a thing. But the main, a lot of big storyline threads kind of go through Roman and Glinda's relationship sort of thing. So it's so hard to describe it because for the most part with seasons 4 and 5, the author more or less glosses over the events of them. Like they don't really last that long. It's 1, 2, and 3, and then 6 and 7 are like take up the most time, and 4 and 5 are just really there. It's really there. So skipping those because honestly, like I said, the author more or less glosses over them. Season 6, a lot of scene. Roman and Neo and later RWBY kind of get kidnapped by, just Roman gets kidnapped by Salem, gets sent to the Grimlands, meets Salem after Salem already tried the sex toys. I wish I was making this up. This actually happens. Like there's even a big thing where all the Salem subordinates like Cinder, Emerald, not Mercury because Mercury joins the good guys too. I forgot that Mercury and the 2 daughters from Juniors actually join them, but for the most part they don't really matter. And Pyrrha joins them too because Pyrrha actually survives. Cinder, Emerald, I think Watts and Hansel, I believe Hazel. I can't remember the big silent guy's name. He's, the Hazel or Hansel, something like that. They all actually have the toys, and then they go, and then Emerald's like, wait, darn it! and immediately after, Emerald actually is like hesitantly holding the boxes of toys in her hands, kind of like hesitantly going to Cinder. It's like, not Cinder, Salem. Hi, Salem. It's like, Emerald, what are you doing? We got you some gifts. What are they? Toys. Like, here's a, and then she got like, here's a toy. And it's like, why? Why is the author showing this? But yeah, why is it? I don't want to get off tangent for the plot because I'm more or less just describing some of the minutiae of like what happens in season 4 and 5 because like I said, barely anything happens in those two seasons, except for like maybe just Salem becoming very horny. But I want to ask, why is the story T-rated? Honestly, I'm not even curious. I'm like genuinely curious. Like, yeah, there are some raunchy teen-rated comedies, but this just goes completely beyond T-rated. It's like there's actual nudity. Like in in one part of the story, Salem and Glinda actually confront each other. They're actually kind of look like Glinda is actually kind of naked, and she's like glaring at Salem's bigger balloons, and then Salem's just jealous that Roman's not having sex with her, and then all of a sudden she just rips off the dress. It's like, why is this T-rated again? Because that is just like X-rated stuff. Like honestly, that's just like there's a line you should when it comes to like adult comedy. There's like a line that when it comes to like comedy, when like the difference between T and M-rated comedy, and this line's been like crossed like so many times, and then just Salem just ripping off her dress, just hits it like a rocket, and just like, why? Just why? And then they have like three-way hate nookie. I'm actually trying to censor myself so this video doesn't get taken down. Because I wouldn't be surprised if this video did get taken down, to be honest. And then they have three-way nookie. And then Ruby and Neo also have nookie in like another area. Yeah, that's something. Like, this is, like, I'm just completely dumbfounded over the fact that this story got so raunchy, and the author had the steel ball to say, nah, this story's T-rated. This story's T-rated. Like, oh god, I'm not even done with the plot yet. So, season 7 happens. They, no, not season 6. Season 6, some stuff happened. Like, the whole thing with Ruby and Neo getting Roman and then Glinda and Neo going after them. There's actually a very cute moment where, like, Neo, like, Salem is, like, looking at Neo, is like, you're her daughter. And then she, like, picks her up and is like, Neo's like, it's actually the single cutest moment in the series. Like, Salem is just like holding her like a little baby. He's like, oh, it's like, oh, you're the little daughter. And like, Neo's like, how'd she pick me up? And then Salem brings her to a freezer and said, if I want to have Roman fall in love with me, I gotta make sure her daughter falls in love with me too. You like ice cream? Freezer full of ice cream. I just like very, very. And then we're also treated to like a little flashback of how Neo and Roman first met in Valko. It was actually very cute, and also kind of hilarious when it was like revealed. It's like, it was revealed that Roman decided to like, hey, I once took a really crazy bet. This actually kind of, I think, happens in season 4, and it's like, what bet was that? I was bet I could fight the ocean and win. 100. I forgot the currency is in RWBY, but who cares? And he's like, what? So yeah. So outside of just that one hilarious moment and like Neo, Glinda, and then eventually RWBY kind of getting stuck with the Grimlands, Salem's like, nah, I'm actually a good guy. I was never a bad guy. I just wanted to I just wanted to make sure that Ozpin never really brought everything together. So if it did, then then the gods would show up, see me, and then just kill everyone. It's like, I don't want that to happen. Especially not that I'm in a 3-way relationship between Roman and Glinda, and then Willow Schnee shows up and like, what? Yeah, so yeah, Willow gets involved. I don't know how. Don't ask me. Yeah, season 6, that's more or less. And then season 7 happens with like the whole crime aspect, where they're trying to actually take the relics so that way they can hide them, and you know, Roman and Neo and Ruby and Glinda kind of get joined up, and they have to kind of cause some problems. Try and get Robin Hill to win, so that way they can have an excuse to try and get into this. You know, it's a very Ocean's 11 sort of shtick, where a lot of the humor is more based on the fact that, you know, they're doing these crimes in like an over the top way. It's very well done. And then of course the final conflict, Salem and Ozpin kind of make up. Over the simple facts, like, so let me get this straight. You turned evil, yep, but now you're good again because you got the D. Yep. I'm out. And then of course there's an epilogue where everyone's older. Neo and Ruby, they're kind of good guys now. Neo is now like the grim, not Neo. Ruby's like a grim whisperer who's like constantly like telling Grimm's like, you can go back home. You can go back. I thought that was actually kind of cute, like seeing an adult Ruby kind of just slightly telling a Grimm to like go, turn around, go home. You don't want to hurt anyone. Like, and the Grimm's like, and Neil's like trying to get like adoration, like and Ruby's like, none of that. Like, oh. And then all the characters throughout the series, like we're introduced to throughout the rest of the series, kind of meet up in Beacon. Oh, Roman's like older. He had a kid with Glinda. He had a kid with Salem. Weiss is actually very glad. It's like, I'm just lucky he didn't get Mom pregnant. And the whole thing happens. I'm sorry I glossed over a lot of the plot because, season 1 to 3, a lot of stuff I don't really know anything about what happens post season 3. I know season 1, 2, and 3, but like I think like 90% of the RWBY stories kind of just go over that. So like they show up at Beacon, they get in trouble a lot. They deal with the White Fang, then the Yvetel Festival, whatever it's called. But instead of Pyra killing Penny, it's Neil killing Penny with the help of Ember, so it's like sort of thing. But the plot, like I said, plot seasons 1, 2, and 3 are not badly written. Like a lot of the character development, a lot of the plot, actual plot. Like there's even a wink and wink and you miss it moment where they're talking about going up to the mountains and stuff like that, and Ozpin mentions like certain things have to happen, and then completely kind of switches like makes a new rule that allows Team RWBY to go with them to the mountain area. So kind of Weak and Najin's like, oh yeah, this kind of has to happen because it's the end of season 2 and the end of season 2 has to happen, sort of thing. Which I thought was like very clever. But then like literally and once it gets to like once they leave Beacon, then everything just in terms of plot just becomes Salem wants to jump Roman, and then Roman, Salem, and Glinda just become a 3-way, and then it becomes like Ocean's 11 in season 7. It's not bad. It's just a complete swerve what happens, especially since after they leave Beacon, there's not really a lot of character development. Like there's still some character development. Like the bulk of the character development happens in Beacon. Like we have Roman pretty much only wanting to join at Beacon because he's like, well, Cinder will kill us, so it'd be safer for us to stay here so that way we don't get killed by her. But the first chance it gets in danger, I'm gonna leave. And then Neo is like kind of the same way, but then over the course of the Beacon chapters, when she starts falling in love with Ruby, she's like, I don't want to leave anymore because I'm with friends. It's like I don't want to choose between staying with my friends and going with my father. It's kind of hurtful because I did promise, and I'm falling in love with Ruby. I don't want to leave because then I'll lose everything that I actually wanted in life. Like I got a bed, I got friends, I got family. I don't want to let that go. So I'm willing to fight. And then of course Roman's like, yeah. And of course Neo and Ruby kind of get like shunted. Roman is like a very sarcastic dunce, like he's basically Roman. I like the idea behind his semblance. So his semblance is called Gamble. Basically how it works is he has unlimited time to get like 100% luck. Like he becomes super lucky. And for example, say he uses it for like a minute. Like, okay, fine. He gets like super lucky for a minute. As a consequence, for the same amount of time, he gets super unlucky. So if he uses his power for a minute to get super lucky, for a minute he gets very unlucky. And he can't use his semblance for that amount of time until the whole unlucky period passes. I actually like the creativity behind it. because a lot of stuff does happen to kind of sway the idea that he's just using his semblance a lot, and we're just not really seeing the unlucky periods, which actually kind of makes sense because, you know, we're not going to see everything that happens. Thank God we didn't see any of the X-rated stuff. But overall, I did like Roman. And then post speaking, he just literally became a corn dog. Like, he still kept that charismatic suaveness, but instead of becoming, like, you know, a guy who just doesn't trust anything because you're living in Balco and all that stuff, he just becomes... Glenda, when can we do Snooki? No. Can we do Snooki now? No. Oh, alright. And kind of just becomes kind of a caricature of himself. It's weird, like how do you just abandon so much actual character development just to make him horny and want him to get be the lady killer? I don't know. Neo is the most is probably the best written character in the story. Like I said, she goes from like Neo, like the selfish person who just cares about herself and Roman, to her caring about everyone around her because now she has stuff that she always wanted: friends, family, a home, true happiness, and he doesn't want to let go. And then she pretty much just joins RWBY because she's fallen in love with her, and she's actually trying to be more good, but still keeps that roguish charm because it's Neo. You know, Neo doesn't really talk that much, so you know she does a lot of nonverbal communication. Or later in the story, she gets like a she uses her skull to start using like voice commands to have her speak, so that way people don't know so people can figure out what she's saying. It's very cutesy, and like more or less the rest of the characters are just, for the most part, not really well written, except maybe RWBY. Like RWBY, you know, Star Slash RWBY, like the excitable Genki girl who just love weapon and wants to be a huntsman, and then she kind of gets like a sharper edge because she's been hanging around with Roman and especially Neo too long. And you know she's like kicking, like she's getting the murder boner by like hitting people in the groin. There's actually a part in where Neo and RWBY are fighting Emerald and Ela, and RWBY gets tied up and she's getting dragged towards Emerald, and she's trying to figure out what to do, and then she remembers, wait, what would Neo do in this situation? And then she just lifts up her feet and then just hits Emerald right in the groin, and then Neo cries a single tear of joy. But yeah, it's very. But after that, yeah, you have Glenda, but Glenda just stays Glenda. Like, she actually barely has character development. Like, she falls in love with Roman, but it more comes off as a friends with benefit sort of thing. Like, they don't. She, like, it comes off like she doesn't really love him. Just more. She sees him as a way to relax and de-stress. So she pretty much just uses him for sex. Very cringy at times. Like, that's the worst part. It's like, on one hand you have RWBY and Neo, who are actually very well done as a couple. Their development is very nicely done over the course of the story. Like, they slowly fall in love. Like, they kind of become like awkward acquaintances because Neo's trying to keep this illusion of being a good guy, but then she starts caring for RWBY. She pretty much abandoned Roman because she promised RWBY that she wouldn't leave, even if it cost her life. And it was very touching seeing that course. And then you take one look at Roman and Glenda, and it's just basically sex. Like, it's just so weird. It's like you had one relationship that was very well done, and then you have the other relationship that's just completely mangled, and then you add Salem to the mix, and then you have Willow to the mix. Willow to the mix at the end. I'm like, what is going? I don't even know. It's like, and then Salem's character, which honestly, the whole thing of her becoming very thirsty for Roman is like very forced. I mean, in the play Devil's Advocate, it kind of fits in a comedy situation that she just go from like super serious, like Salem was like, yes. And then we see, and then just gets completely flabbergasted by just taking one look at Roman. It's like, I must have him in bed. Yes. To the point where she actually, she starts wearing makeup. She actually like wears, like when she breathes into Roman, she actually looks like what she looked like before she became like grimified, where she has makeup. She dyed her hair black. She's actually just wearing just a simple dress and pants. And then I think that's Cinder. Someone messes up. I'm probably gonna say Watts because lucky guess. And then of course all the makeup and dye kind of just go, and then she just leaves what she looks like. And then she gets pissed, and then she still wants Roman's D. And then it's just, I mean, I don't like Salem's character, but it fits the tone of the story of just being complete over the top ridiculous. So I kind of give Salem a pass, but Glinda, there's no defending Glinda. She stays pretty much the same over the course of the entire story, and it's just really bad. Same with Roman. Like, Roman, at least the author tried at the beginning, and then, like, after they left Beacon, they just give up. And just said, focus the character development on Neil. Grammar error. Grammar. There's a lot of grammar errors in the story. Like, a lot. Like, really, a lot. I couldn't go through one chapter without coming across like 5 or 6 grammar errors, and there's 31 chapters. Oddly, I think the only chapter that didn't have grammar errors was the last chapter. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been like 2 or 3 weeks since I actually finished the story, so I'm trying to remember if there's any grammar errors in the last area. But other than that, that's, like, and it's not even misspelled words. It's just a lot of the errors are just basically words and like letters missing. Like that's like the main error in terms of grammar. But it's fine. Other than a sentence, the sentence structure is fine. Everything else that is fine. It's just there's a lot of words with missing letters in it. That's fine. Pacing. I have to give credit where credit's due with the pacing. The pacing is fine. It's a very fast-paced story because I actually went through the chapters very, very fast, but it never dragged. So, like I said, some stories benefit from a faster pace. Some stories benefit from a faster pace, from a slower pace. Some stories benefit from getting fast and slow depending on it. This is a very fast-paced story that completely doesn't drag. Like, you're still getting what you're asked for. Like, this is literally primarily a comedy story. And the fast-paced makes the jokes carry a lot more weight. There's actually a variety of comedy. Like, there's a lot of different forms of comedy. There's there's slapstick, there's actually clever wordplay, there's visual, there's various forms. Like, there's even adult comedy, just like the whole thing with Salem getting the sex toys. Like, she's like wondering what it does, and then she sees a button at the bottom and then it starts vibrating. It's like, oh, I wonder what this does. And then she slowly starts bringing the toy down there, and then it cuts to like the henchman is like, oh, and like, hopefully she doesn't get worse. She got worse. And it's very fun and light and aloof. And I like the fact that pacing kind of reflects the whole comedic nature. And again, more time was focused on parts of the story that kind of matter more. Like parts like I said, season 4, 5 are more or less glossed over because nothing, according to the author, nothing really happens in them. So a lot of the focus is on seasons 1 to 3, and then 6 and 7 at the end. But and 4 and 5 more or less didn't really happen. But that's fine. So that's the end of the main part. Would I recommend the story? That's honestly a tough thing because there's such a clear divide between the two halves of the story. Because in terms of because there's like half of the story is just dedicated to the first 3 seasons, and those parts are just completely really well done with good character developments, good plot, plenty of comedy, even like some winks and nods to the actual show, like I think there was actually I took a picture of it. There's actually a moment where the author does make fun of the writing. I just actually a friend of mine on Discord actually wanted to see if I was telling the truth, and I actually took a picture of it. So let me see if I can find it. And I don't think I can find it. Okay, let me see if I can find it. Can I find it? No. Did I take a picture? Did I? Oh, there it is. Okay. No. Okay. Alright. Of course, there's some megalomania. This was like, I think, this is when they did the, at the point they were talking about, they were trying to dress Mercury up for the prom. And so, of course, there's a megalomaniac trying to steal from the most ritzy school on Remnant. It's like a shitty show with equally shitty writing and unexplored, poorly introduced characters. Ta-da! Yeah, there's plenty of winks and nods. Like there's even a wink towards the fact that Yang actually doesn't get her arm cut in this story, and they're actually Yang and Mercury are just riding on a bike heading with following everyone, and then Mercury asks Yang, said, "You know, you look good with a robot arm, right?" It's like, where is this coming from? It's like, I'm just wondering. What do you think? You think you look good with that? It's like, guess, but come on, who's gonna lay such a hit on me? If only I knew. But yeah, there's such a clear divide between seasons 1 to 3 and everything else, even 6 and 7, because 6 and 7 does have a lot more plot and just have a lot more substance to it than seasons 4 and 5, but when you have half of the story focus on 3 seasons that have good characters, a good plot, still good pacing, and very clever writing, and then you see the juxtaposition post-Beacon, and then like more or less a lot of that is just stripped away in favor of lots and lots of sex jokes. Like it's just a weird divide. Like I genuinely don't know whether or not to recommend it or not, because the first half is really, really good, but the second half is just such a weird mess that I just don't, I can't grasp how to accurately kind of put that half in words. Like, yeah, there's a lot of comedy, but there's a lot of adult comedy, and mostly sex jokes, and, you know, there's some heartwarming stuff, but then you have Roman, who's, like, in the first half, he has a good character, but then all of that's gone in, like, the second half, and then there's Glenda, who doesn't really change over the course of the story, and then it's just, and then, like, everyone is kind of forgotten about, despite the fact it's a big group, everyone's, like, completely forgotten about, except for the core 4 or 5 if you count Salem. Or then, like, Salem's character is, like, completely horny, but it kind of makes sense in the context of the story. But it's still kind of very forced. The second half is just such a weird thing to describe that I literally don't know whether or not to recommend this story. Just, I would honestly just leave this up to the readers. Like, if you're a fan, like, maybe if you're not a fan of erotic comedy, and there's a lot of erotic comedy, skip this one. But if you are, or at least kind of curious about what I'm talking about, go read the story. I just don't. I'm just so confused over whether or not how to accurately gauge this story. But yeah, it's like it's very mixed. So that's honestly what I would say. I just up in the air, just split it down the middle. Go wild, whether or not you read it or not, up to you. Favorite part. I do like the flashback between Neo and Roman. I thought it was very sweet, like Neo being like a little homeless girl, just basically just robbing stuff, and then Roman just starting out in criminal, like, saves her, and then decides to, like, I'm gonna adopt you. I can see some potential. And then Neo deciding to steal the bowler hat for Roman. Like, the reason he wears the bowler hat is because Neo was the one who stole the bowler hat and just gave it on to him. And he's like, while he's thinking of, like, a disguise, and he's like, and then he and then he realizes that, wait, you should put a hat, and then he looks himself in the mirror. It's like, oh, that actually fits. And then, like, unintended comedy happens when he's about to walk away from the window when he notices what he was looking at. It's like, you want a treat, Neo? It's like, alright, I'll get you a treat. And then they go into the ice cream parlor, and Roman gets Neapolitan. And it's like, and it says, on that day, Neo discovered an addiction. And it was on that same day that Roman regretted everything, giving her ice cream. It was just a cutesy moment, and I think that was like the last good bit of character development for Roman, because we got to see Roman when he was younger, and it was very executed, very homely, especially since in the context, Neo is just basically shoveling ice cream into her mouth and kind of signing the story to Salem. And Salem's just watching like a good mommy. He's like, yes, I can be his parent. It's just yeah. So yeah, I like the little flashback. Final thoughts. This is just a weird story. Like, I love a lot of it, but I love half of it, but I hate half of it too. Like, it's just a weird story, and I don't mean any criticism towards the author, Nardcopter, but if there was two things I would change, it would be fix the grammar, raise the story to an M-rated. It started out fine because the most adult thing that happened was either some slight implication to sex, or if you want to get broad, maybe Neo just punching Weiss like right in the groin, like, and her just passing out. And you're like, yeah, that's probably the worst. And then the whole introduction to Salem just completely just pushed it way over the edge, especially the whole sex toy thing. Like, that's just weird. Like, it's just very, very awkward. It's like, and I'm still wondering, it's like, why did he leave it in T-rated? Because if I was the author, the moment we were introduced to Salem, I would have just bumped it up to M-rated, like, and probably just left an author note saying there's not going to be any erotic stuff happening. It's just more a precaution than anything. That's pretty much it. Just clean up the grammar and bump the rating. Like, you don't. Yeah, there's other stuff that I would change, but it's a humor story, and that's. And honestly, this would be more small stuff. So that is my review on More Than You Can Chew. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.